Hey, beautiful souls and creative minds. Welcome to the Artist Stoop, the podcast where we turn the art world into your personal playground. I'm Jillian Zapata, your host, and I can't wait to dive into the art world with you. Each episode will be kicking it with an incredible artist, unraveling their stories and turning the spotlight on the magic that happens beyond the brush. Get ready to discover new perspectives, forge connections, and immerse yourself one captivating conversation at a time. So grab your favorite beverage, maybe a sketchbook, and let's jump into the kaleidoscope of creativity together. This is the Artist Stoop, where art isn't just a thing you see, it's an experience you feel. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Artist Stoop. Today, our special guest is Stephanie Rado Taormina, and she is an abstract artist who splits her time between New York City and Pennsylvania. She was born in Norristown in 1965, and she has exhibited extraordinary artistic talent from an early age. She has pursued her passion for art through her high school and college, and including additional night classes at local art institutes. Stephanie has earned her degree in communications from Penn State and a BFA in fashion design from Parsons School in New York. Over the past 30 years, Stephanie has built several successful art and design-related businesses, including a bedding and loungewear line and an interior design and art consulting business. In 2014, she founded the high-end graphic fashion brand Have Some Fun Today, loved by celebrities like Halle Berry and Mila Kunis. In 2023, Stephanie moved to New York City, where she spends half of each month drawing inspiration from the city's vibrant energy and returning to her Pennsylvania studio to create. She's currently preparing for a solo show at the Yoakum Gallery in Pennsylvania, slated for March in 2025. So welcome to the podcast today, Stephanie. We're so glad to have you on.
Thank you, Jillian. Thank you so much for having me.
That's quite you have accomplished a lot. You have accomplished a lot, and to be able to pursue all that creatively is amazing. And I like I said before we jumped on here, I was on the hunt. I wanted more artists that I don't know, that I haven't met yet, to broaden my reach. And I discovered you on Instagram, and like I said before, it was just like you have this energy and excitement, that I can feel that through your art and through all your different endeavors. And I was like, I need to talk to her.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, and I appreciate hearing that. Being able to create the things I create, I remind myself all the time how lucky I am to be able to live this life where, I wake up every single day to create something. And whether it's related to my brand, Have Some Fun Today, or it is making my art, it is an honor and it's a privilege. And I do get excited. I get excited to make the art. I get excited to clean my brushes. I get excited. So I'm like a little kid in my own playroom, playing. And it's such a great way for me as someone who is multidimensional. And I would extend that not to just creating, but to understanding, humans and our behavior and what motivates us.
Yeah.
So I also do like a lot of spiritual work. I love to read philosophy. I love to study philosophy, enjoy therapy. I really love delving into things deeply.
Yeah, totally. I'm right there with you. And it's interesting because, before we popped on, you did a little Instagram shout out, that you were coming on, that we were going to do this. And there's something that you said on there, pretty much, I'll just kind of simplify it. It was, at the beginning when you started creating, and I think most artists feel this way, is that we don't understand why we're creating. We have this urge to create and we create, but it takes years to understand why we're doing what we're doing, why we're creating, um, where our inspiration comes from, and the themes that we're putting into our work, and then being able to talk about it. It's
Mhm.
very, it takes time. And I think, like you said, it's just like you, with through enough therapy, enough practice, we get to this point and we go, this is why I have this gift. This is why I was given this gift of creativity to touch on XYZ themes, to share these things
Mhm.
with people, and to talk about our art in a very constructive way. What are
Yeah,
your,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a co-creator,
mm-hmm,
on this earth with all of you,
mm-hmm,
the people who are listening, the people who don't even know about this. I still feel like I'm co-creating with my sisters and my brothers and as humans, life is hard. It's also why I started my brand, Have Some Fun Today. They are intertwined because, there's deeper meanings in everything we do and what our purposes are here on earth. And if you're not paying attention to your day to day, and not just the things that you're doing, but the things that you're thinking and the energy that you are subconsciously bringing to every moment of your day. Um, there's currents running through all of us questioning what we do every day and why we're putting all this energy into whatever that is or whatever those things are. They're endless. And especially with social media, we are constantly, our brains are computers and our bodies are sponges for that energy. And so we're constantly taking in and seeing so much stimuli. And we have to process it some way. And so for me, it really helps me to process my thoughts and emotions and my goals and my conclusions through my creativity.
yeah, no, it's definitely because it's interesting because, I don't know if you felt this when you first started creating, because it's just like you knew that you wanted to create and you're like, I don't know what my subject matter or my themes are. So you dabble in a little bit of everything, right? In the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point where you're like, oh, I really like this theme or this subject matter. And then that's when you kind of get hit on the head and going, like this is where my voice is. This is this is what I'm supposed to be sharing with the world, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and I totally just lost my other train of thought.
That's okay.
It's an early morning mom brain over here.
I feel you.
I was like, wait, I had something really deep I was gonna just say, and it just totally went.
Happens to me all the time. No worries.
So when did you realize that like you were a creative person?
A very young child.
Yeah.
A very young child. I I loved to be around older people. I
Hmm.
used to really enjoy, the oldest of five from an Italian American family. So there were always like a lot of people around at birthdays or Sundays or whenever our family got together.
Yeah.
And I remember just being someone who liked to absorb what was happening, what the big people were talking about. And I think my first creative energy was around coloring books and crayons and paper. That was awesome to have those things and explore, coloring in the lines. lines, and, as I've gone through many phases of artistic practice, I am such an abstract painter. So it's funny when my mom walks into my art studio, sometimes she'll look at my paintings and she'll just watch me in my process and she'll see like a drip and she'll say, that would bother me. Shouldn't you fix that drip? And I'd be like, no, mom, like that drip is meant to be there. And
Yeah.
so it's funny how you can start out not trying to color in the lines of a coloring book as a little girl to 50 some years later, you're making these wild paintings that are messy and just so out of the line, and exploring what that makes you feel like, exploring, where your eye goes when you're looking at a painting like that. I always find it interesting when people look at my art and they're trying to make sense of it. They're trying to say, oh, I see a dog in there. And it's so interesting to me because I don't put things in my paintings. So when people see something, they're seeing it, but it's not me putting it there. They're seeing what's coming to them through the energy and through the strokes and probably through their own personal stories that they aren't even aware of.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting. And so my first artistic was coloring books. And it just, once you kind of see that the things that you're making as a little kid and you're getting positive reinforcement that it's good, I think that you kind of follow what feels good when people compliment you, that feels good. So you're following that. And so I'm believing that just because I was able to color in the lines, I was able to make things look the way they're supposed to look in conventional art. I was always, included in the children who were gifted artistically. I've always been taking art classes since I was in grade school. I've always won art awards. So I always just thought I was good at art. But I didn't decide to go to art school from the transition from high school to college. You get that opportunity like, okay, which direction am I going to go in?
Yeah.
And I didn't go in the art direction, because I feel that, and I'm sure you might agree, we aren't pushed towards creativity, and I was a very good student, so I was not pushed in that direction. And, I thought I was making the smart choice to study an academic, future, which, I don't look back and wish I did something different. I'm not that person because I feel all the things that I studied or I put time into. I think anything you put time into is going to be an asset to you,
100%.
So I don't regret, studying advertising.
Has it come to help
it's come
you?
in very handy as
Exactly.
the founder of an e-commerce brand. I employ all those things that I learned. I think for me there, and probably for most people who identify as artists, there's this need that you feel like wanting ice cream or wanting some food that
A craving.
yeah, it's like a craving, and it's interesting because I'm seeing it in my daughter now. My daughter, who didn't follow an artistic path, works in fashion, and all the time she's saying to me, Mom, I want to paint. I really want to paint. And I said, that's how it starts. I said, I think you're probably going to be a painter. If you're feeling that need to paint, you're a painter.
Yeah.
You just don't know
100%.
it yet.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's just like I agree 100%. Like I grew up in a small town that was very, very artistic. And so I was always taking art classes. The arts was like very much uh, uh, um, a big part of the community in general.
Mm.
And so, like, when I got to that point of what to do after, it's just like I was comparing myself to all my other friends who were artistic, and I wasn't to their level at
Mm-hmm.
all. And so I was just like, am I real? Am I fake? But I really love this, And so at that time, this was before all social media and
Right.
whatnot. And so it's just like my parents, they pushed me. They're like, no, you just need to go to school because neither of them went to school. They don't have their degrees. I think they just have like their associate's degree. So like my sisters and I, we were the first of our family to go to school. So they
Mm-hmm.
like, you just need to go to school and you need to get a good job that has health insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
That's
that was what, but it's just like, no, but I really want to do this. So it's just like I decided to go to start school for interior design, which I ended up bouncing around and I have my degree in film,
oh
which
wow.
I originally transferred as an English degree and then switched my degree to be film because I didn't want to disappoint my parents. So I was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go get my English degree. What can you do with an English degree? Nothing. Nothing, people. So then I got there and I immediately was just like, I'm going to school for English. And then I got there, I went to the bursar's office, I was like, we're changing my major. And so the parents were not too pleased, but it's just like, hey, this is how it's gonna go. But then later on, years like I think it was just a couple years ago, I was in the car with my mom and we were driving to my art show here in Dallas, and my mom goes, I wish I had listened to you when you said you needed to take a break from school and that you wanted to pursue art. She's just like, I look back on that and she's like, I wish I had listened to what you wanted, because it's just like there's that thing that's like truly part of all of us artists, no matter what. And I think, in today's age, like we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure out how to be successful or what to do if you have to have an A and B job. But it's just like when you have, like you said, that craving inside of you, it's just like you have to listen to that voice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and I seem to get inspired by inspirational environments. Like the other day, I, sorry, had an opportunity to go to a Broadway show.
Ooh,
And
fun.
I lived part-time in New York City. Um, it was Hell's Kitchen. It was the new musical that Alicia Keys wrote about her life. Now, I just want to say that I can appreciate Broadway shows. I think they're amazing, but I never think about going to a Broadway show. It's not something that I ever think about doing. So
Hmm.
someone said, let's go to this. And I really wanted to see this person. So I said, okay, I'll go. And I'm not excited about this at all. I go on, I buy this expensive ticket and I go to the show. And I'm actually sitting by myself because the two people I was going to meet had already had a ticket, which was fine. I'm like, I don't mind sitting by myself. So I'm sitting, getting ready to watch the show, and it starts, and it was an incredible experience. And first of all, I highly recommend this Broadway show. And Alicia Keys should do more Broadway shows because she's really good at it. But the thing that, as I was sitting there, the music, the dancing, the talent of these people, and the way it all came together, and the story itself, everything about this was like my inspiration was shooting off. And all I could think of as I'm like listening and watching this is, I want to go paint the biggest painting I've ever painted. And it can't, that feeling of wanting to make some big gorgeous painting, and I mean you can probably feel how excited I am
Yeah,
just
I'm getting
talking
it.
about this. Like I can't wait to make this painting. And that is such an amazing, like, thank you universe, thank you God, whoever you want to thank. Like to me, oh my God, I'm so grateful and I feel so lucky that I can take an experience of watching somebody else's talent and manifest it.
Hmm.
in my own life and kind of like respond to how beautiful that was.
Yeah, you're getting emotional. I can
I
see
know I
that.
could just cry,
You're gonna make me cry.
you know, just the emotion of like, wow, how do I match
Yeah.
how that made me feel?
Yeah. It's really interesting because it's just like sometimes we get stuck in our own routines and like how we do things and whatnot. But when we get pushed to do things that make us step outside of our box, make us do uncomfortable things. That it's just like that's I honestly believe that that's the universe way to say, okay, I'm pushing you out here. Make sure you're paying attention. Open your eyes,
Yeah.
and things like that happen, because you don't expect, obviously you went in just like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with friends, I guess, blah, 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 whatever,
Yeah.
and then that,
Yeah.
and I think it to me those are always nice reminders, as thank you for sharing that, because that's a reminder for me to get my ass out of my house and go and do something for myself creatively that that needs to almost fill my cup up so that I can come back with inspiration. So
Yeah.
that's, artists, if you're listening, go do something uncomfortable that you really kind of don't want to do and see what inspiration comes from it.
Yeah. I think just leaning into things that make us feel good, and also leaning into what's actually happening in your life and not turning away from it. Um, it's something that I've recently recognized and have an awareness of. I just turned 59 in April. And now that's a big number. And although I'm not someone who is afraid of my age and is like, um, it is a big number. And next year's 60.
Mhm.
And but so the point that I'm about to make is I have lived now a pretty long time,
Mhm.
you know? And when you have lived a certain amount of time, you are then able to look back. And now I can see patterns in my life that I would not have been able to see in my 30s, when I became a mother. Um, and now that I am like about to turn 60 within the next year, I have been able to look back and see that it feels like almost every 10 years, something shifts in my life. And I was able to finally be able to like have had the life to see that and see how there were phases that were really hard. And so, you're faced with choices in life that you have to like kind of grin and bear it and go through it. And you wish it wasn't happening. You wish it wasn't the way it was, whether it's getting divorced or whether it's being a single parent or, dealing with things with your job. I mean, there are so many things that happen in life that most humans have to go through,
Yes.
and they're not fun. But, you know, like, and when you lean into them and you go through them, you get this depth that that depth is what fuels like my art. So, we can certainly lean into how that shows up for people, how that shows up in our art, and how that affects, you know, the people that look at it, the people that buy it, the people that live with it, the people that just see it on Instagram,
Yeah.
just seeing a piece of art from an artist on Instagram. If I want to get inspired, I go on Instagram and look at art.
Me
And
too.
I save them and I'm like, oh my God, I love that. And it's so fascinating to me how many amazing artists there are out there that are not known, that don't even probably realize that they're great artists. I mean, there are people in my little town here who I admire. And whenever I get a chance to support them as artists, I do. And I just think they're amazing artists. And I hope that either they know it or maybe someday the world recognizes them. There
Hmm.
are so many of them out there.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, you have several collections out. Is there a collection that resonates a little bit more to with you than other collections, and um, that really is pointed towards one of those times in your life?
Well, I don't know if one resonates more than another because each collection was me going through something. And then so when I first decided to get an art studio as an adult, kind of in the midst of me being an interior designer and having this interior design consultancy, I was I wasn't happy in my marriage, just throwing it out there. Um, and so I was really, the themes of that first period, um, where someone gave me advice and they said, to be a successful artist, you should really pick a style that is your style and that when people look at it, they'll recognize, it's your work. So I had been prior to that kind of like exploring all the art that I loved, like the Rothkos, de Kooning. Like I love that kind of work. And so I was kind of self teaching myself different styles. But when I got this advice, it changed my direction and I decided to use an organic shape and almost like a shape of a rock. And so I have this series called the Rock series.
Hmm.
And that was like me and when I was first trying to create an identity, an artistic identity. And so all the rocks in all those paintings, it went on for years. They represent people, or they represented emotions, or they were representational of of things that I was going through.
Yeah, I went on, I saw them, and they're like stacked, and they're different shapes and sizes, and they're either stacked on or leaning against each other, and some
Yeah,
are outlined, some are not. It's actually a really beautiful series.
thank you. And so that was like the first time I did something like that. And I think today, almost 20 years since then, um, I I am now kind of moving, not not reclaiming that, but utilizing that aspect in my work in smaller ways. I think then I went into a period where I was really all about words. And I went through a period, I think it was like my mixed media period, where I would write a bunch of words out that I was feeling in my life. And there's a painting called The Story of a Life So Far Told. And it was an interesting time in my life where I was now separated. Oh, no, I was divorced and I was dating someone much younger. My family they were up in arms about it. Um, and I was going through a really tough time, dealing with the pressure of being a single mom, two young daughters, a lot of I was getting a lot of negative energy thrown at me. And I didn't have the tools to handle that. So my art became my sounding board. So this painting, The Story of a Life So Far Told, I was being told that I was a bad person, basically, in so many words. And I decided that I didn't believe that I was a bad person and I wasn't a bad person. So I wanted to and I didn't even realize that I was doing this at the time. I decided to write down the story of my life because I wanted to go back and really write it out to see, well, is this the life of a bad person? And if I'm a bad person, like, let's find out where this happened. So I literally got this enormous piece of paper, one of those like really heavy watercolor oil papers on like arch
Yeah.
paper, the
Yeah.
heavyweight stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I cut the biggest piece I could find and I nailed it to the wall of my studio because you couldn't tape it on. It
Yeah.
was such a heavy, big piece. So I had to nail this piece of paper on my wall. And I started writing out the story of my life with an oil pastel. The whole size of a room, piece of paper with this black, almost graffiti-like style.
Yeah.
Wrote the whole thing out. I invited my daughters who were 12, 13-ish at the time, 11, 13, because they were experiencing stuff. You know, my daughter who was 13, she was at that hormonal stage and dealing with my family. They weren't being so nice at the time. Um, you know, we were all kind of going through a shitty time. And so I said, hey, you guys want to come and write down anything you're feeling? So this piece of paper was filled with, you know, their drawings, their interpretation of what they were feeling, my words, trying to figure out, well, is this the life of a good person, or is this the life of someone who went wrong somewhere? So that thing was happening, and this was going on for a couple of years. This piece of artwork kind of took over this span of time. And then I went to the de Kooning retrospective at MoMA, and I was blown away by a few of the paintings that I had never seen before of his. One was The Door to the River, is probably one of my favorite paintings of all time. And I was just, the experience of seeing that painting in person just inspired me. So I went back to this painting that's happening on my wall, and I paint over all of the words. And I just completely cover it. You can't really see really any of it. You can see some of my daughter's little drawings down at the one corner, which I love. But I completely made this big abstract yellow and pink because de Kooning's colors, like his yellows and his pinks, always like mesmerize me. And so I made this big abstract painting over top of this whole story. And then it was finished. And I didn't want to move it from the wall where I painted it. So I had this glass company come, and they installed a piece of glass over it. And it's still in my living room.
Oh my gosh.
And it's such an interesting piece of artwork because that to me is a person, you know, because we all have these stories that we have from the lives that we've lived. But what you're
Sure.
seeing is me with my hair done and my makeup on. You don't know unless I tell you, you know, but you still don't really feel it because you didn't live it. So I kind of got into doing work like that, you know, work that had all this complexity underneath it with the words, but then the outer painting was this expressive, emotional, colorful, abstract painting. And so I went through a period where I was doing that kind of work for a while, and it felt really good.
Yeah.
And
A lot of therapy right there.
yeah, it's so fascinating. I think the things that you don't even realize, you're like, sometimes you do the right thing and you don't even know how you knew to do that.
Yeah. It's like your body's purging
Yeah.
like what's in your subconscious without you knowing that you're doing it. I had a collection that I did that, and um, I too had a divorce. I was in a not so good relationship, and I at the time when I was thinking about leaving,
Mhm.
I did this art collection because I always have like the woman's body in my.
Okay.
No one's really ever seen this collection. I still have some of them, but I usually would like paint these, the woman's body like very open, not really sexualized, but just open and expressive. But all
Mhm.
of these bodies, my sister came to me, my little sister came to me, and she's like, and she asked me, she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" Because that was my response for
Yeah.
5 years. Yeah, I'm okay. Why? And she goes, "Well, the bodies that you're painting right now, they're really, closed off and shrunken right now. They're not the
Interesting.
open, expressive that you're used to doing." And she's like, "And the colors aren't as vibrant. Are you okay?" And it's just like, and then I went and I looked at all the paintings and I went, "Oh my gosh, she's totally right." I was painting how I was feeling and how I was feeling in that relationship without even realizing I was doing it.
Yeah. So so fascinating how that happens.
Yeah. Um, so you have a new body of work that's going to be shown in March of next year.
Yeah.
So can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I can. So 2 years ago, my partner and I decided to rent an apartment in New York City. So I go between New York City and Pennsylvania every month. And it's just a random thing. Pennsylvania is my residence and I spend more time here, but I do spend time in New York City every month. And so the first year I was really nervous about that. I was nervous for a lot of reasons. I live next to my mom and she's older and we just have a very special relationship. And I knew that she would not be excited about me being away, in New York.
Hmm.
And I think I have gone through so much with my mother that, it kind of frightened me a little bit to
Yeah,
have to go through that again. And not that it would be the same, but I didn't want any, like,
add blood.
I didn't want to go through stuff again. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm done going through stuff. And so I was a little apprehensive. PTSD. That's the
yeah,
best way to put it. I have a lot of PTSD. And so
ditto.
I'm slowly trying to get over all the PTSD I've had. And so I was apprehensive. And so the whole first year, I was like, kind of like trying to enjoy it. And I was enjoying it, but also at the same time feeling a little guilty that I was away. And over the course of that first year, too, my business, Have Some Fun Today, was experiencing, you know, um, a difficult time. It's an e-commerce business, and it's really hard for fashion companies that are small today, especially since, the only reason why we were even able to launch was through social media. And it was before all the big players even gave a shit about social media. And now they own social media. So it's been hard for smaller brands to exist now in this new medium. Um, so, so I'm going through like kind of a weird, I'm very apprehensive about things. And I knew that I was going to have to make some big changes. So in January of this year, I set some time aside, like a good amount of time, like 3 weeks, which was really hard for me to do. And my partner and I did these really deep dive conversations. And he really felt that I needed to just, take a break from working so hard and worrying about this and that. And let's just really talk and let's really get to the bottom of what you really want in life and how you want to spend your energy. And he just felt that I needed to do this. And it was,
What a good partner.
he's amazing. I got to say, I have a really good partner. And it was hard. Like I was like, okay, I'm ready. And it really sucked. It really sucked to go through it because I found myself sobbing and crying through these conversations. And it was like gut wrenching to like purge all the fear, all the anxiety, and discuss all this stuff. And then one night I had, and I'm a bath taker. I love to take baths. I have to take a bath every day. And there have been times in my life, probably when I was more stressed out, where I have taken like up to 5 baths a day. Now, I don't do that anymore. There was a time in my life when if I was like going down some kind of emotional, I'd go take a bath. And I've read about other people doing this. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I
Don't
read
worry.
that Tom Ford takes 6 baths a day. I'm like, okay, I'm in good company. He's a creative genius.
Yeah.
But I get visions in my baths. So I was in the bath and I am I'm thinking about how I'm open to a miracle happening. And so I
Love
started thinking
this.
about miracles. And then I started thinking about magic. And then this whole idea came into me of, I'm ready for magic to happen. I want to explore the idea of magic happening in your life. And then I was just kind of flowing along with this whole thought process in the bath. And I thought, what would magic look like? And I emerged from the bath saying, I want to paint magic. I want to paint what magic would look like in my life. And so I was thinking about it for a while. It wasn't like I just went and then started painting magic, but it was like this thing that I was allowing to percolate in
You had to let it
my thought
brew.
process.
Yeah.
And so this whole year, I have been making paintings. And I initially began the process to visualize what would magic look like. So I made these paintings that were really unlike
Hold on one
anything
sec.
I've ever painted before. And they
One
were
second.
difficult because they
There we go.
weren't abstract. They
Mhm.
were linear and they were like almost like graphic designs.
Mhm.
And the first one is called Starburst. And it's like these striations of color and like emanating from this central power source. And they kind of just emanated out. And originally people thought they were trees. And I was thinking about that because people would be like, oh, I love these trees. And then I thought to myself, it's funny, they're not trees, but I guess in a way they do what trees do.
They grow, they
Trees get their
burst.
source from nutrients and light, and then they kind of spurt out of the ground. And you think about a tree and its branches,
Mhm.
that is the energy. And in a way, that's kind of magical, right? So I was like, okay, well, people think they're trees. They're not trees. It's magic. And so I've just been really exploring, the concept of magic, what it could look like, but then taking the works that I've been making and experimenting with them, experimenting with, well, what if I do this next group that isn't so, you know, busy, that I pare it down and abstract it and minimize like the shape and the line, but keep like the color energy. So I've just been like experimenting
That's
on the
a
theme of like, this is magic and this is like knowing something magical is happening in your life and being present for the journey and holding space for it and seeing where it leads and just kind of being just very positive about the whole experience. So
Yeah.
I'm just in this phase right now of experimenting, creating works that can be shown together that are about this magical energy that can come into any of our lives. It's really painting to help people. I mean, it helps me, but there is an intention there that we are all experiencing similar things.
Yeah.
So if I can articulate visually and energetically, something that other people are experiencing, I'm hoping that the energy that these pieces create makes someone feel better.
Yeah. No, totally. Because, we, like you said, each decade, we're all going through something that, we need that I think it's all about choices, right? You can either choose to be, super negative, like, why is this happening to me? It's just like, or and there's, you can say that two ways in a negative tone. Why is this happening to me? Or why is this happening to me? What is this lesson teaching me?
Yeah,
And, it's the same question. It's just how do you choose to have the tone and how you approach the question, and I
yeah,
think that having
yeah.
that magic, like, you're like, I'm going to choose to find the magic source in me to be positive about it. To, yes, this is happening and I'm choosing to be positive. And
Yeah,
I think that's really cool that you're bringing that about, because sometimes it's really hard to, one, artistically, you're allowing yourself to play. You're allowing yourself to break all your old rules and, like, come into this new era of Stephanie as this exploration of magic. And
yeah.
I believe, like, a lot artists were musicians, each collection is a new album. Like, we're discovering a new theme, a new process, a new energy. And that's what you're allowing yourself to do. And it's really beautiful. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Well, I'm always posting like the pieces on, I'm trying to be more engaged and really more vulnerable.
Mhm.
You
On
know,
social
it's,
media, it's hard.
yeah, it's very hard. Social media is like, that's such a topic.
I know. So I think we can have a whole episode
You
about that,
know,
right?
that is such a topic. I mean, honestly, I've been on Instagram since it started
Hmm.
because I love photography.
Yeah.
That was like the impetus to be on social media, my love of photography. But that has just, that whole concept of loving photography, I don't know, it's taken on a whole different energy and life. And Instagram is so much more than photography, as we
Yeah.
know. It can be
Yeah.
a lot of great things, and it can also be a lot of really, really sad and ugly things. And to be like vulnerable on social media as an artist is something that I'm leaning into. I mean, just like looking back, I think it was 2008 is when I got on Facebook,
Hmm.
and Instagram followed maybe a little bit after that.
It was like
A long,
2011,
yeah.
2012-ish, somewhere in there.
So it's a long time, and I've seen a lot of things. I've seen patterns happen on there.
Yeah,
You
of
know,
course.
I've seen patterns directed at me on there. So now I'm able to take a step back and remember, oh, that happened in that era when I was sharing that, what I was going through. Now I'm in a different era of sharing what I want to share on Instagram, and it's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And, and
It's almost like, how, going back to when you were a little girl, and I think for all of us, when we were coloring, right? And you were
yeah,
getting the praises and the accolades saying, "Oh, yeah, good job, whatever." Like, you did a beautiful painting, you did a beautiful color. It's it's almost like the adult version of that. Showing up vulnerably, showing because it's really hard to create something that, you know, that we did. What a lot of people need to understand, especially for me as an artist, and by the sounds of it, this is sounds like you too. Um, but correct me if I'm wrong. I create because I need to create. I don't create to make my art for interior designers or to make sure it's going to look good in your house. I create
Yeah.
because the idea has to come out of me. And if it doesn't, I will become a hot mess. Like it that's just how it is. I will get depressed, I will like overthink, and I will become paralyzed. So by we're posting our work on social media, it's one, because at the end of the day, we're still a business. We need to sell our work. But two, it has the double thing going, okay, well, are people going to like it if I post it? Am I going to get that gold star? Am I going to get that pat on the back in a sense? You
True.
know, so and that's where it's hard because it's just like you're sharing something so personal out there for the world to see, for the world to comment on, you know,
True.
and even though they're just seeing a picture, they're not seeing all the different layers and the hard work. And, you know, unless they ask or unless you share it, they don't know the double meaning behind it. And so I
Yeah.
think that that's where it's kind of like it's really hard to truly authentically show up on social media, especially when we're sharing art, because it's just like people don't know the whole story. They're just seeing a picture. They're seeing a reel.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
they're not doing what you and I are doing right now, going, "Here, let me explain this collection to you so you can get the most honest version of it."
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I am doing reels that articulate why I did a painting
Hmm.
or what was the impetus for a painting. And it's very cathartic. It's very cathartic to tell a story um, about like this painting that's in back of me right now. I just recently finished this piece of work, and I'm telling the story of like how this phrase came to be, and it's very cathartic to talk to the social media audience, whoever they are, um, about what happened to me in college when the art professor was saying this phrase and walking around the studio class, and how I never forgot this phrase. I can't remember his name, but I remember being at the easel, being 18 years old, hearing this cool art professor say these words, and they've just never gone out of my head.
Yeah.
And that these are shared experiences, because I'm sure that everybody has some phrase that they don't even consciously
Remember where,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, like we all have it. I know we do.
Oh yeah, I
Unless you
have.
are not thinking, we all have something that is just comes into our head, and it goes and we don't even think about it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
It's our subconscious like holding on to something that it it struck a nerve with us. And so our
yeah,
subconscious is holding on to it for some reason. And
for some
it's
reason.
for some reason, and it's just like it's a mini lesson, you know, in our life, in our day to day, that when for some reason when it needs to be present, it pops up because that's
Yeah.
how the universe works. It's magical that way. I truly believe that. That's just
Yeah.
me though.
So it's a bit of magic, a bit of magic that happens. And, I mean, I just think that art is so necessary for
Oh,
our world.
100%. We need it.
Artists are so necessary for our world. And I think that we are the people, whether we're a musical artist or an actor or I mean, there's so many forms of art
Yeah.
that we don't consider art, but we are the people that make things, but we all are experiencing, like, we can all like resonate with it.
Yeah.
Like, people can resonate with this phrase itself.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants love in their life.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, it is the thing that keeps you going sometimes
I
if
think,
you don't have,
yeah.
or, so they're universal things, and they're meant to unite people and make people feel less alone.
Yeah, and obviously it goes back to, like the Roman times, the Greeks, like, what brought that people together? Why did they gather around food and whatnot and share? They, had the acting and told stories, and they had the arts, because it is universal. That's why, we fall in love with music. That's why we fall in love and we can resonate with characters on TV. That's how we
Yeah.
can connect to the characters in a book and feel like they're our friends. It's
Yeah.
because we're all going through it's empathy. It's empathy and love at the end of the day. And sorry, my dog's so noisy. My dog is scratched on his little pad. Yeah, it's empathy and love, and that's what brings us all together at the end of the day. And even though I don't know you personally, but I already feel like I know you, that we've connected through through similar art forms, or through similar meanings of things. So yeah, we all need art, people. We all need art in our world to bring us together, and we just need more love in the world, especially right now. We just need more love. All right. Well, Miss Stephanie, if people wanted to find the love that you're giving to the world and your beautiful paintings, where can they do that?
Well, I think the best way is on my fine art Instagram page, which is Stephanie Rado Taormina, and look up my stuff on there. And of course, I'm on TikTok and Facebook, and I have my art website, which is currently it's going to be different. We're working on updating that so it's better and shoppable. But I love doing podcasts, and I loved speaking with you today, Jillian.
Yeah.
It was awesome, and I can't wait to see your artwork and support what you do.
Oh,
so
thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on the Artist Stoop today. And everyone, I will make sure to include Stephanie's website, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of the things, and even maybe some of her other things on there as well. So you can go and support her and the energy and love that she's bringing to the world with her art. So thank you for coming on, and thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much.
And stopping, but now it has to upload.
And that, my friends, wraps up another colorful episode of The Artist Stoop. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their art and stories. If you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on the next Stoop chat. And don't forget to spread the love. Share your favorite episodes with fellow art enthusiasts, and let's build this community together. Connect with us on social media at Jguze Studio and Jillian Zepeda Art for behind-the-scene peeks, artist spotlights, and a sneak peek at my own art. Until next time, stay inspired, stay curious, and keep that creative fire burning. This is Jillian Zepeda signing off from the Artist Stoop. And remember, the world is your canvas, so paint it vividly.